Music Business, What Is This? Is a podcast that focuses on the ever-changing music industry and presents issues and concerns that the average and above average musician has or will encounter. Hey everybody, he's Jeremiah Hunt.
And that's Richard Johnson.
And we're here. It's Music Business.
What is this?
Thank you for joining us. We're going to get right into it, the music business. Our last episode was very interesting, so we're going to continue talking about words that are very important to all of us in the music industry.
The next term we have is manager.
Ooh, manager.
And this is a thing that a lot of musicians sort of question. Do they need?
Yep.
Should they get it? So let's look at the definition that Google provides. Manager, an artist manager, is the professional representative and advisor for a musician or band. Managers help build an artist's career and get their clients' music in the hands of producers and label executives, as well as negotiating contracts and setting up tours.
Okay, that is a mouthful, and it's a lot of work.
Yes.
A manager, boy. It's interesting because to me, managers don't have the best reputation in music. If you go back in the 50s, the 60s, there's movies about bad managers.
Absolutely.
And what they've done to artists and not making them aware of certain things and robbing them, taking their money. I mean, there's been so many situations that we've all heard, and some of us have personally seen. So today we're going to talk about our own personal situations and what's things that have happened, good and bad, and things that are happening today.
Yeah. The first thing I think about when I look at this definition is professional.
Professional. Like when you say professional, is the manager professional?
Right. An artist manager is the professional representative. Professional.
Okay, that stuck out. I didn't hear it that way, but that makes sense. Because to me, I don't want somebody who's trying to represent me. I mean, I have some very great clients, people I work with. So that professional point is crucial.
Very.
And that means a lot of different things. So when looking for a manager, what makes them professional to you? Or what makes them not professional?
Oh man. Well, I've dealt with both aspects of. I mean, I haven't had many managers, but the managers that I've had, I've dealt with kind of both sides of it. They could be professional, and sometimes they can be unprofessional. And I think it really just depends on how involved you are with them. Sometimes a manager likes to get personal, and to a certain aspect in the music industry, there's a certain personal side to it because your music is personal. And, when your manager goes and make deals and try to get you gigs, sometimes they want to sacrifice. Sometimes you sorry.
No, it's all good. I understand. It's tricky when it's not tricky, but it's a personal situation you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. So it's this merger of you have your job, but at the same time, I need my space, but I need you in my space for me to succeed.
Absolutely.
And that line is going to get blurred.
Yeah.
And that's been the problem for several years. It's like, okay, you're here to help me, but how much help do I really need?
Right.
All right. And that changes for every person.
Yes.
I kind of look at them like a parent would look at kids. Every kid is different, right? So what you do for one kid or one artist may not be the same for the next. It may be similar, but it may be different. And I think those things you need to really suss out when you're looking for a manager. And it's hard because some people are really good actors.
Yes.
Really good actors. And you have to really ask some important questions that are very difficult sometimes.
That's the key thing, asking questions. A lot of times when you're performing and everyone's watching you. So you'll have people coming up to you, and I've had people come up to me in the past and say, hey, you got it. I want to work with you. I want to be your manager. And it's like, I'm flattered.
Right.
But I don't never think to ask them like, okay, what is this person about?
Right.
Because
You got to do some digging.
Yeah, you definitely have to do digging.
Somebody could be looking at you and be saying, "Ooh, they're a gold mine."
Right.
Right. But don't know jack diddly squat about managing anybody else and their own personal affairs are out. That's one of the things I've learned. When you're looking for a good manager, you have to look at like their history and them personally. We're talking about this is a personal relationship. You have to look at how they manage themselves. If they don't manage themselves well, that is a big red flag.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't think about that. They think, oh, they've got money or they have an important position.
Yeah.
Right. And those things can help, but they can also hurt. Right. Just because someone has money doesn't mean they're going to manage you well. They could look at you as one of 20 products, as one of their streams of income. They could take it or leave it, but they need to fulfill this slot number 20.
Right.
Right. So that's why you got to be really careful of managers who have 15, 20 different artists.
Yes.
One of the things I've learned over the years is some of the best managers don't have that many artists to manage. They usually have 2 or 3. Some just have 1.
Yeah.
And if they're great at that, that's all they need.
Yeah. It's better for them because they can focus on.
Yep. Pay their attention. That focus is crucial.
Absolutely.
You want somebody with history and experience, but they need to focus on you. If they're not focusing on you, it's going to be a problem for you. This is a situation where you need to be selfish. Right? And a lot of people look at selfish as a bad term, but it depends on how it's used.
Yeah.
I want my manager to be selfish about me.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that means we are going to be successful.
And I think one of the main things for me is the manager has to have a fully clear understanding of the direction that you want to go and your vision, where you want to take your music, whatever you want to do in music, in the music industry. They have to have a clear understanding of that, and y'all have to be on the same page. Otherwise, somewhere down the road is going to get tricky.
Yeah, it's going to break down. It's like a car running on 3 wheels. It may operate and look good from one side, but there's somebody on the other side saying, this is a time bomb.
Absolutely.
Right. So you mentioned something that was pretty profound. You said they basically have to be on the same page as you. And for me, I heard the word strategy or be strategic, planning.
Yes.
Right. Those are the words that jumped out in my mind. So how would you recommend to someone who needs a manager to find those qualities, find those traits? Because the problem is everyone wants to manage because they see managers with money. But the question is, a lot of people don't know how to manage.
Right.
Right. So first of all, you need to have a list of traits. But how do you find those traits? Like, how would you recommend to someone, a student who has no clue what to look for?
And a manager?
Yeah, give us some things that if you could go back in time, back to the future.
Oh, I would.
You would change.
Yeah, I think it's good to just look at some of your favorite artists.
I think for me, one of the things that has to happen is I'm a paper guy. I'm going to keep it real. I put it down on paper in my computer so I can see it. I think if you're going to have a clear plan, especially in music business, you have to have a business plan. Right. And a lot of people don't think that way. I learned that in my college years when I went to college. I had to take a course. I went to Berklee College of Music, and one of the courses we had to take was creating a business plan. And I was like, what in the world do I need this for? But at the end of the course, I was glad they made us take it because that showed me a lot of things that I needed to have in place to make my business successful. And fortunately for me, I had a lot of those skills because of my dad. I learned at home. He had us selling oranges as kids. We had Excel sheets before Excel came out, creating the numbers. addresses, going to homes, doing all these things. And I was like, why is he doing this? But when I got to that class, it was pretty much the exact same thing. Right? So I think your business plan helps with your strategy. And I think when you have that plan, your manager can get on board or not get on board.
Right.
Right. And that makes it clear. Sometimes when we talk about things, the communication is misinterpreted.
Yeah.
Right. So someone can say, I'm hungry. And you can say, yeah, me too. But the person who said they're hungry is hungry right now. Right. The person who said, yeah, me too, might be able to eat an hour later.
Right.
There's a big difference.
Yeah.
Right. So that business plan sets goals out and it tells you certain things that has to happen at certain times.
Absolutely.
That way there's no question. This has
Timing.
to happen, then this is what has to happen. Now the next question is, how do we do that?
Right.
Right? To figure out how to do that is like everyone has their own way of managing and doing things. But if you're on the same page with your manager, that helps you succeed together.
Absolutely.
Right? For instance, once again, back to the hungry motif. Why? Because I'm hungry right now. Right? So if I say I'm hungry, he says he's hungry too. The way I may think about getting food may be different. I may say, oh, you know what? I'm going to go cook me something or make a sandwich. And you may be thinking, well, why would I do that when I can just drive to a fast food chain?
Right.
Right? Ending goal is the same. The procedure is completely different.
Yeah.
Right. So these things help lay out the foundation of your relationship. A lot of people don't think about that. With a manager, that's extremely and crucial because when problems come or situations come, you have to make sure that person understands how you would proceed in doing that.
Right.
Because if not, it's going to be a problem. And the reason I bring that up is because the manager's goal is to have you working.
Yeah.
Put you in situations to work. So if you're out there working and you can't respond to a call, which you shouldn't be, or an email because you got a manager anyway,
Right.
you should be confident enough that they're going to handle it that puts you in the best light, that represents you the best. And you have to understand how they're going to handle situations. And if that person is not professional, that comes back on you.
Absolutely. See, and this is a huge lesson for me because I only went to college for about 1.5 years. I didn't finish. And back when I was in college, I was more focused on, or my desire was to travel and explore and experience the music side more. It had nothing to do with wanting to learn about this and that. But ultimately, when you get down to it, you're going to need that business. You know, you're going to have business practices within your music journey, your musical journey. So I found that out the hard way. You know, I was real proficient in music theory and, you know, obviously playing my instrument and stuff like that. But all the music business classes I never took. So I never really got that formal training when it came to all of that other stuff. So
yeah, well, you know, it's different for everybody. Some people get their training in the streets.
exactly.
Some people get it in schools, right? And I think it's all valid. I think you need whatever you can get, especially in this industry. Things are constantly evolving. But going back to the original question of what is the purpose of a manager, the idea of a manager, is a manager necessary? I think a lot of it depends on, does the individual have a very clear idea of what they want to do and how they want to do it?
Absolutely.
Right. If you have that, you may not need a manager right away. You may at some point.
Yeah.
You know, but for me, when someone says, do I need a manager? When my students come to me, I say, well, what do you have to manage? If they say, well, as soon as they say, well, that's a click. That's a clue.
Right.
Because you're thinking, well, somebody who has something to manage says, oh, I've got this podcast I've got this tour. There's no, well, I have these things to do. Okay, now we can get to the next question.
Right.
Right. But a manager manages. If you don't have anything to manage, you have to figure out what you're doing. What is your plan? Is it to be on tour? You may have goals. You may have dreams. But in order to make those things happen, you have to have ideas, put them on paper, and put them in motion. You know, if you don't do those things, and a manager does help that, but you want to make sure you bring something to the table.
Yes.
If you don't bring something to the table for them to manage, they may be creating a situation for you that you don't envision in your head. And now you're doing these things, but they're not really what you want to do. You may be out playing, you may be touring, but you know what? I really didn't see myself playing in the basement of that church in front of 4 people. I saw myself playing at Newport Jazz Festival in front of thousands of people. Okay, well, how do you get there? Right? That's when the strategic planning comes in, the business plan, all these other things we're talking about. All right?
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, that brings us to about a close of another podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure for me, as always, speaking with Mr. Jeremiah Hunt here.
A pleasure for me as well.
You know, I'm learning every day, and hopefully you're learning too. Write in, give us your feedback, your comments. We welcome those things. And like we said, we don't know everything. We're learning.
You're learning.
You're learning. This business is constantly evolving, and you got to remember that. But you got to know it's always about music business.
What is this?
We'll see you later.